Okay, let's talk self-inflicted wounds. One of the things I have learned after being in some sort of business for about 34 years and being in charge, in other words, being the guy who started it up or the guy who's running it, operating it to some degree, is that everything that happens to your company is going to be your fault. No getting around it. I don't care if you're standing outside of your company and a car drives down the road and crashes through your business and drives out the other side with your safe inside of it and takes off down the road. Doesn't matter. It's your fault. Is it your fault? Maybe not. We could argue about that. But who's got to deal with it? You have to deal with it. So let's just start with the assumption that everything that happens to your business is your fault. In other words, if it succeeds, that's because of something you did. If it doesn't succeed, because of something you did. So let's start with systems first. Why do you want to use systems? You want to use systems because systems catch errors. Systems save you time. How do you develop systems? For the most part, you either work inside of somebody else's system and then take that to a business and set that up at the new business, or you start a new business up, took your system from an old business that you controlled or that you worked in, and you use a system there. The third way is, which is probably the way that most people do it, is they develop systems on the go. That's what I usually do. I try to take from other people's systems, but a lot of times I don't like the other person's system. So I personally feel like the best thing to do is to start a business up from scratch. You might have a few ideas about systems that would work, but you basically just do it on your own. And as you go, you record, spit it out. You record what you're doing, and you come up with these systems that later on you teach to other people, and then they repeat the system. If somebody comes in and they start messing around with your system and there's a positive effect, well, then you change the system. If somebody comes in and starts messing around with your systems and a negative effect, well, then you reteach the system to them. If somebody can't grasp your system and they can't approve it, it's probably not that worthwhile for you to keep them around, just so you know. So why do we use systems and how do we develop them? So for instance, I have a KPI sheet. I put all of my numbers on the KPI sheet pretty much every day. Maybe I skip a day here and there, but usually about 5 o'clock in the morning, I get up like somebody racked a shotgun in my bedroom and I head to the office. I pray real quick. I read the Bible for a little while. Maybe I should pray a little bit longer. But eventually I get to my spreadsheets and I start checking numbers from the day before and looking at how things have been going. And what happens at that point usually is that I'm judging how not only the day before went, because I'm comparing it to the day before that, but I'm then comparing or adding yesterday to the numbers of the month to date, to the year to date, to the lifetime of the business. And as I look at those, there's some numbers that I look at every day. And I try to decide how things are going right away. Because this is a good time in the morning to try to figure out if things are going well, what else can I do? Or if things are not going so well, what can I do to fix that? So a lot of times when I look at my system, because I've had a long time to set it up, things will appear to me and I will know this is something I need to take care of. If you're not doing that, if you don't have a big long spreadsheet of all the things that happen in your business over the course of time, money in the bank, sales orders, inbound inquiries for business, whatever your business might be. For me, it's people sign up for emails. People order clothing and they receive their clothing. I look at customer service complaints. I look at add to cart on the website. I look at reach checkout. I look at email opt-ins, which I mentioned already. And then I look at revenues that come from email flows, revenues that come from email campaigns. I look at those as a percentage of gross revenues. If you start on the left side of my KPI chart, it will start with the date, the month. I don't track by day, but I add every day to the month to date. So in other words, if you look at my chart, it won't have 31 days or 28 days in it. It will just have the months of the year. But every day I add yesterday to it so that I have a month to date running number. I don't really find it useful to me to track numbers by day because Fridays will usually be different than Saturdays and so on. And because of holidays, there's a lot that goes on. But I can usually compare this month to date to last year's month to date, and I find that that's pretty accurate. Sometimes there'll be anomalies. So getting back to the chart. So it's a date. Next I have orders. Next is gross revenues. After gross revenues is a column for discounts. After discounts is a column for returns. In between returns and discounts, there's a percentage number. So this gives me an idea what discounts are as a percentage of gross revenues. Then right after returns, I have another column, percentage, and again, it's returns as a percentage of gross revenues. For my KPI chart, for year to date and also lifetime, that hovers around 11% for returns and around 11% for discounts. But the numbers have fluctuated over time. In the beginning, the discounts were low, the returns were high. At some point, those two numbers crossed over, and so now they kind of stick together right now at this point. But the one thing that I can easily control, which is discounts, I found that it's better to keep them low. So we started out with a low discount, we went to a higher 15% discount, and now we're back to 10%. Works for us, might not work for you guys. And returns, same thing. In the beginning, we didn't get a lot of returns. As time went on, we started to get a decent amount of returns, and we found that we had to adjust some things in the business, sizing, cuts, descriptions on the website, targeting customers. We found that as we did these things, our returns would go down. So we continually monitor that. We continually try to figure out ways to keep returns down. It's a constant battle, but it's a good one because returns are a heavy duty rock to get hit by if you're running DTC. You got to think about returns as your customer is swinging a rock like David and Goliath. You don't want to be taken down by a tiny rock like a return. You release a single product, you could end up with 30, 50% returns on that single product, and that could be a disaster for you financially. So getting back to the sheet, after discounts and returns on my sheet, I have a bunch of calculations. The next time I can enter something on my sheet, as you go left to right, is new to brand, NTB it's called. If you download it off my website, it says NTB. Just so you know, NTB comes from the Shopify report, first time versus returning customers. There's a number in there that will tell you month to date and also the preceding months, if you pull that report, how many new customers you have month to date. So every day I pull that number out. Today I think it was like 1,600 or something like that. And I throw that into my report. Now then what happens is because a couple of columns down, I get to ad spend. So now I put my Facebook ads in. I don't run Google ads right now, so Google ads isn't a factor. I've been on a very low budget, $300 a month. Whereas opposed to on Facebook, I'm spending $300,000 a month. So that number, that Facebook number, and I do that for impressions, by the way, just as a quick aside. I don't mind some cheap impressions. I don't really put much value in Google ads right now because of some stuff that I studied in our business and found that it wasn't really doing us a lot of good. But I like the idea of having people Google us or Google something and seeing our ad out of the corner of their eye. So for $300 a month, it's kind of like putting a shingle out on Fifth Avenue that says, look at my company. People will see it, might not do anything. We're actively advertising on Facebook. That's our best place to gain customers. So getting back to the sheet, I put my ads, but I put my ad spend in Facebook and Google, and then I put the next column is a formulated column. It tells me what the ad spend by day is. So every day I need to go into that column and add another day. I don't automate it. I could, but it really only takes me about, I would say 90 seconds to 2 minutes to do my whole sheet. After that, the next entry would be NC revenues. Yes, so NC revenues is the next column to the right of that. Maybe not the next column right of it, but there's a bunch of formulated columns. And then the next one that I can put in is NC revenues. And when you take NC revenues and you put that with ad spend and with gross revenues, that gives us a couple of numbers like NCCPA, new customer cost per acquisition. It gives me NC ROAS. Or no, actually it doesn't give me NC ROAS because that's an in-platform number. It gives me AMR, which is the efficiency of your marketing for new customer acquisition. So it's acquisitions, marketing, efficiency ratio. Somebody might want to double check that. I might have what the A is wrong, but I think you get the idea. After that, we get to my action metrics. These would be like engagement type things, actions that were taken or activities. I take this also out of Shopify. These are conversion events. So there's a conversion event for email opt-ins. That one comes from Klaviyo. So I usually got to go to Klaviyo, and I don't do that one every day. I'll probably do it once a week. So you go to email opt-ins, throw that number in. The next column after that is traffic. I track traffic, and I put the traffic in month to date. Right next to that is traffic compared to last month as a percentage. So in the month to date, it's going to look bad because, like, say you're on the 15th of the month, you probably only have half as much or maybe a little bit more traffic as last month. So that means it always looks bad. It's always like, it says like 40% or 50%. That doesn't really matter. In my mind, I'm always looking at it knowing that that calculation is going to be off. But when I look at the previous months, that tells me how it does. And I've thought about doing it by day, but the problem is that it's such a wide-ranging number traffic that I just kind of leave it the way it is. Right after that is add to carts. So I track how many add to carts I have month to date and in the years past. I like to look at that number. After that, it says reach checkouts. And behind each one of these columns is going to be a percentage. It's going to be something that tells me what the performance is. So for instance, if I'm looking at added to carts, I'm going to see the added to carts as a percentage of traffic. So it's going to tell me, right now it's going to tell me like 9%. So 9% of the customers who come to my website add to cart. The next one after that is going to be reach checkouts. In exactly the same manner, I have that percentage number, and it's going to tell me, you had 9% added to cart. Now you have 4.5%, 5% reached checkout. That means they reached the checkout. Maybe they had filled out some part of the checkout. They maybe put their email in. Maybe they started to decide how they were going to get shipped, but they haven't completed the activity yet. They haven't purchased. And obviously right after that would be a column for orders, but I already have that way back at the front. I have orders, so I don't put it over here. But I do put the conversion rate there. Right next to add to carts, I put my conversion rate, which is traffic divided by orders as expressed as a percentage. And so it's going to tell me, like right now, my percentage month to date is around 3.75. And lifetime, my percentage is in the threes. So I'll go to the bottom of the sheet. I'll have a band that says lifetime. Right above that, I'll have a band that says 2024 year to date. 12 columns above that or so, I'll have another one that says 2023 EOY, end of year, and so on, going back to 2020 when most of the companies that I work for were founded. Right after that, we're getting close to the end of the columns, very close. Right after that will be Klaviyo campaigns, and then next to that there's a percentage column again, and that's as a percentage of gross revenues. So Klaviyo campaigns as a percentage of gross revenues, very important number. The next one after that is Klaviyo flows. Right after that again is going to be the percentage as a percentage of gross revenues. Why do I do this? Well, I have it on one sheet, and there's a big reason for it. First of all, I like big sheets. Secondly, and this is a more important reason, is that when you're spending money on ads, it's going to affect how many email signups you get. It's going to affect how many add to carts you get. So if I look at the sheet and I look at my ad spend by day, and it's say 10 grand a day right now, and then I go to last month and I see my ad spend is 8 grand a day, and then I go to add to carts and I notice that the add to carts this month don't match the add to carts last month. I start to say to myself, why? And so what I do is I'll go look at the website and I'll say, why aren't add to carts doing well? And sometimes you'll find there's a button broken, and that can save you a lot of money. Other times I'll see that, say the ad spend is lower, but all of a sudden I see all these orders coming through. Why did that happen? Well, I go to my email sign up and it's advertising a higher discount than I normally do. Somebody checked the box by accident. They made an old pop-up live. Now the 20% off or the 15% off pop-ups up, and people are hammering my website and getting big discounts. And the way I would know that is because I'm looking at all my numbers, and I look at the numbers and I'm like, wow, month to date, my discounts are kind of high right now. Somebody made a pop-up live. In my mind, that kind of stuff happens. So that's never happened to me, but this is why I keep the sheet, because it keeps you from getting blindsided. And if you're running a small company, I can tell you right now, my sheet, which is free, will probably tell you, if you've been running your Shopify company for 4 years, it would probably take you about an hour to fill it out. But it will save you a lot more than an hour's worth of heartache. So I would say if you're running a small business, head over to my website, or I'll drop the link in the comments, copy that spreadsheet, or what you do is you go to the spreadsheet, you click that top left cell way at the top, you press Control C, you go to your own spreadsheet, you drop it into there, and then you fill it out privately, nobody sees it, it's just for you, I would be diligent about this thing. At least fill it out once a week. Because I can't tell you how many times I've talked to an owner and they don't have any of those figures that I have on my spreadsheet, and I'll start asking them questions and they have no idea about any number that I asked them, except they know how many orders they got, they know what their gross revenues are. Trust me, if your business is in trouble and you don't know all those numbers, knowing those numbers could save your business from a 404 situation in the near future. And if you do get a 404 situation, by the way, I do like to buy domains from people. So if you have a strong domain and you found yourself not checking your KPIs and you get yourself in a 404 situation, in other words, people go looking for your website and they get, doesn't exist anymore, I do buy URLs. So you have the choice. You can have a free KPI sheet, or you can come to me later and sell me your URL for pennies on the dollar. Either way, I'm good with it. I'm just kidding with you. But I just want to stress to you how important it is for you to track your KPIs and know them. Because like I said at the very beginning, what happens to your business is your fault. And even if you could say, well, I didn't know the numbers, I didn't know this, I didn't know that. All of that stuff is true. But if you put this KPI sheet right now, maybe take you an hour, onto your business and you see something's wrong, you can fix it. If you don't have that information, it's very hard to fix things. And there could be a variety of things that are wrong with your business, but when I go to a KPI sheet, there's a lot of things I look for. I look for the decreased carts. I look for decreased campaign revenues. I look for decreased flow revenues. I look for, obviously, decreased orders. I look for increased ad spend. You know, and I'll give you a kind of it's not the pro forma because it's the opposite of the pro forma, but it's like the worst case scenario. I open somebody's website up, their sales are way down, their ad spend is way up, their add to carts are down, their email opt-ins are down. All of these things are running in the wrong direction. And I see this. So I start one by one saying, okay, we're going to look at Cabio. Okay, we're going to look at your website. Okay, we're going to look at your discounts. We're going to look at your email sign-ins. We're going to look at the quality of the creative in your Facebook ads account. Because when I see spend going up and orders going down, that tells me there's probably something wrong with your Facebook ads if your site hasn't changed at all. And that's an important thing to understand. Facebook over time has changed how they do things. And Facebook is an entertainment platform. So if you have found that your ad costs are going up, but your orders are going down, it could have something to do with the kind of ads that you're presenting to people and how Facebook feels about how you are presenting your ads to people. Because if Facebook feels like your ads are not entertaining, are not good for their customers, they're going to raise your rent. And that's what you're doing. You're paying rent to Facebook. So if Facebook thinks that your product is not a good product, don't be surprised if they raise the price for you to sell your products. You got any questions or anything? Let me know. I've been posting a lot of stuff on Instagram. I don't really do a lot of long form here on YouTube. If you want to follow me, Twitter is probably the best place to follow me. I'm there every day. It's at John Hickey 1970. I do spend a good amount of time on Reddit too, but the people over there like to fight with me, so I don't spend as much time on Reddit.